Thank you very much. I would say, in listening to the charges from the judge, who's, as you know, very conflicted and corrupt, because of the confliction, very, very corrupt. Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged. The whole country's a mess between the borders and fake elections, and you have a trial like this where the judge is so conflicted he can't breathe. He's got to do his job, and it's not for me, that I can tell you. It's a disgrace, and I mean that. Mother Teresa could not beat those charges, but we'll see. We'll see how we do.
He says Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. Well, a couple things. First of all, because they're so strong and they got you so dead to rights, or because Mother Teresa would never have to beat these charges because she would not break the law, as prosecutors allege that you have. That's, of course, Trump outside of the courtroom, awaiting a verdict that will very likely come this week. And we'll get to the discussion about what you should expect on that front, timing, and what the sentence could be if he were convicted and all those things. But I want to show you first a very desperate, panicked, freaking out Trump on Truth Social as he waits. And not many criminal defendants are doing this as they await the future of such a consequential moment in their life. Here is Trump on Truth Social, first posting boring, then posting filibuster, then posting, can you imagine that I, as a defendant, am not allowed to rebut or correct the many lies told during the 5-hour filibuster just put on by the Soros-backed DA's office in the Manhattan court? What a disgraceful performance of misrepresentation it was. MAGA 2024. And what he's referring to is the closing arguments from the prosecution. You did have a chance to refute what they were saying when your lawyers gave their closing argument, and also the entire trial, you've had that chance. And also, Trump chose not to testify. He had the right to go up on that stand and correct the record, but he knew that if he did take the stand, subject to cross-examination, he would be ripped to shreds and would probably perjure himself. Joe Scarborough, as we covered, calls him a perjury machine, would just pump out the perjury. And that's why he didn't take the stand. But then he's saying he's not allowed in court to speak on his own behalf. He was, but he passed up that chance because he was afraid of being caught lying. Then he posted Biden witch hunt, and this is at 12:22 a.m. So right in the middle of the night. I never knew how small, both mentally and physically, wacko former actor Robert De Niro was. Today, De Niro, who suffers from an incurable case of Trump derangement syndrome, commonly known in the medical community as TDS, was met outside the courthouse with a force far greater than the radical left, MAGA. Robert, whose movies, artistry, and brand have gone way down in value, I don't think so, since he entered the political arena at the request of crooked Joe Biden, looked so pathetic and sad out there. Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? And I will say that you can judge for yourself. I covered those moments. I obviously disagree with Trump's characterization and think De Niro's remarks were powerful and effective. But it is interesting, this cycle with Trump. Every single time he has someone speak out aggressively against him, his sort of childish attacks come out in full force. He also posted Kangaroo Court, a corrupt and conflicted the whole thing. Earlier, I don't really feel like reading that, but earlier in the clip that you watched, he said that Judge Juan Merchan is so conflicted that he can't breathe, whatever that might mean. He also posts, NDAs are totally legal and accepted, which is true, but that's not what you're being charged with. Defense of counsel defense. I don't even know. These are all different for our podcast listeners, by the way. Don't even know what the charges are in this rigged case. I'm entitled to specificity just like anyone else. There's no crime. And I saw someone respond to this post, him saying he doesn't even know what the charges are against him, saying maybe that's because you slept through the trial. True. And then he writes, it's ridiculous, unconstitutional, and un-American that the highly conflicted radical left judge is not requiring a unanimous decision on the fake charge against me brought by Soros-backed Alvin Bragg, a third world election interference hoax. So just absolutely losing his mind and espousing so many untruths. So all of that nonsense aside, I want to bring in our legal expert, Aaron Parnas. There's a reason, as I said, that Trump is absolutely losing his You know what? And that is because we are mere moments away, days away from the verdict in this first criminal trial of Donald Trump. A historic moment, no matter how it goes. But we'll talk about how it just might go in this segment. And Aaron, last time we talked, I asked about how long this could go, and you said you expect by Friday. Is that still your assumption based on when it all got started?
I do. I mean, jurors have been deliberating now for several hours. They go home around 4:30 every single day. So I anticipate that they're going to deliberate for at least another day or so. Today, they had a question for the judge regarding readback of David Pecker's testimony, and that's going to take some time because you literally have to bring the jury back into the courtroom, read the testimony back to them, and then allow them to go back and deliberate. So I expect them to take a full day on Thursday and then return with some kind of decision, whether it's a verdict or a hung jury by the end of the day on Friday.
Wow. And imagine it went longer than that, or it was super quick and we got news very soon. What does a long versus short deliberation suggest for the outcome?
Yeah, obviously you never know with juries, but the shorter the deliberation, oftentimes the better it is for prosecutors. Because in a case like this, getting 12 jury members to acquit Trump right off the bat was very difficult, and I think Trump's team even acknowledged that. So the shorter it is, the more likely that you're going to have some type of guilty verdict, but you never know. I mean, we saw O.J. Simpson acquitted in just 4 hours after a 9-month trial. So you really can't tell, but I will say the other thing is that if deliberations last past Friday, I do expect that there to be some type of disagreement in the jury room, potentially a holdout juror, some type of hung jury situation developing, because although 2.5 days of deliberations may not seem long in a 6-week case, it is long in a case like this where jurors really want to go home for the weekend. They don't really want to continue thinking about this. So I would say Friday mid-afternoon to be kind of the deadline for a quick verdict for prosecutors.
And then, obviously, he was charged with multiple felonies. What are the different possible outcomes because of the numerous charges here? It's
a good question. It really ultimately doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things whether Trump is convicted of one or all 34 criminal charges. He's facing the same penalty, which is up to 4 years in New York State prison. If he's convicted of all 34, what you see is that all the sentences would run concurrent to one another, meaning that he serves theoretically all 4 years for all 34 at once versus consecutive, where you see a judge stack that. But ultimately, the outcome is going to be the same. One flag, though, is that in a case like this, it's very rare to get an incarceration sentence here. Trump likely will not be sentenced to any jail time, just like I read 1 in 10 defendants charged with similar crimes in New York actually get jail time. And this is not a violent crime. It's a nonviolent offense. Trump's a first-time offender. All signs point to some type of probation or house arrest sentence if he is convicted.
Okay, because that was going to be my next question. If you had to predict, if you feel comfortable doing that, let's say there's a conviction, what do you think the most likely outcome is in terms of the sentencing?
Yeah, I think the most likely outcome is going to be some type of probation or house arrest or some type of mix between the two. If there's a conviction, I highly, highly doubt Trump will see the inside of a jail cell for this case. I mean, the other criminal cases he has ongoing are much more likely to lead to some type of incarceration for Trump.
Crazy stuff. Aaron, where can people find you?
On all my social platforms, just at Aaron Parnas.